This is the Meaning Business Podcast, your go-to source for business tips, advice, growth, and exit strategies, hosted by Bruce Kudry and Peter Spinder. Each episode, we bring you real stories, expert insights, and practical advice to help you succeed in today's market. Let's dive in.
Imagine you owned a bakery, Bruce, and in that bakery, you made your own pies, sausage rolls, breads, all that sort of stuff, good stuff that bakeries make. Healthy, all the yummy stuff you want to go to after a few, shots with the boys out a big night out. Now, imagine, you're making beautiful pies, and anytime you make a pie, you take the sheet, you cut out the round cylinder or shape, for the pie base itself, whatever it might be. And then you got these leftover, right? And you got leftover dough.
Yeah.
What would you do with it? No? Well, like, you got leftover dough. What would you
We
do?
wouldn't throw it away, so...
You could throw it away. You could use it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Imagine, I don't know, you were a steel fabrication shop and you were custom manufacturing things for your clients. Customers would come in and you're custom making these products out of steel. And then you've got these offcuts.
Yeah.
Again, what would you do with them? So
We got to find something to do with them.
yeah, because let's say you paid $100 for that piece of steel and you used 90% of it.
Yeah.
That means $90 of that was effective, and then $10 is ineffective. It's wastage. And in the hospitality space, if you're running a restaurant, you know that when you're creating your budget and cash flow forecast for a restaurant, you know that you're going to have a percentage for wastage. But do you really need to have the wastage? Like, does wastage need to exist in a business, or can we look at wastage in a bit of a different way and use it in a different way? Or perhaps, I don't know, let's say you run an accounting practice and we know that the practice runs in cycles, coming close to the end of financial year, everyone's going to get busy, then things drop off, then you got staff that are maybe 60, 70% capacity. What do you do with the 20, 30, 40% for those extra few months? Do they just kind of sit there twiddling thumbs, or do you do something with that so that you're actually maximizing the investment you're making in your people?
Yeah. So that last one, the time one, is a common one in many businesses. Hair salons, quiet on Tuesday afternoons, busy on Saturdays. How do you manage that?
Yeah, because you're paying for the resource. You might as well do something with it.
So you're talking about wastage today, Peter?
Maybe not. Let's play a little video, and I think that'll set the scene for today's discussion.
All right. So let's roll it.
Would you drink your next coffee out of a cookie cup? Every single week we make these New York cookies, and when we had leftover cookie dough, we decided to make a cookie-shaped cup, fill the bottom with chocolate, and try and make a latte out of it. Now this was the scary part, because we thought the coffee would melt through the bottom and it would go everywhere, but it actually worked, and it tasted pretty good.
It's chocolatey, it's not. It's chocolatey.
I'd definitely try that.
Yes. That is hot coffee, right?
Yeah. How cool is that? So today we're going to talk about innovation. So it's about looking at our products, looking at perhaps things that we've got left over, like in that case you saw that cookie dough, and they're thinking, okay, well, why don't we do something different with it? Now, you asked me a really interesting question before we started, was, Peter, how much would you charge for that cookie cup with the coffee?
Yeah.
And we discussed it, and you said, what did you say?
Well, I said I'd pay at least $10
Yeah.
for that. Now I'm thinking of probably even more.
Yeah.
Because if they're the only people that do it, it's going to bring people in.
It is, isn't it?
And you shouldn't be giving it away. But
Yeah.
you can make good money out of what was a surplus product.
That's right. You're potentially going to throw it out.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's take that off cut. Let's think about it a little bit differently. Let's experiment in order to come up with the best, chocolate layer and get the right type of temperature, and then the coffee into it. And all of a sudden, that there becomes an Instagrammable social media
Point of difference.
Point of difference. And then you've got these lines of people out the front wanting this cookie dough cup of coffee for inflated, exorbitant price that everyone's happy to pay.
Yeah.
They're making great margins on it.
Yeah, because it's not just a cookie and it's not just the coffee.
That's right. So I think in business, and there's this fallacy that I've seen where often a small to medium business owner thinks, innovation's not for us. Innovation's the big end of town, the Apples, the Googles, because all we seem to hear in the media is, oh, Apple's done this and Google's done this, or I don't know, latest ChatGPT upgrade. Oh, how innovative. And people aren't realizing that innovation is actually on a spectrum. So you've got those transformative, innovative technologies. So if we go back to, I think it was 2007, the first iPhone was released, and everyone was like, wow, Steve Jobs, how innovative, how amazing that product was. Yes, and that's a transformative piece of innovation, but innovation doesn't have to be so transformative. It can be taking the cookie dough, shaping it, lining it with some chocolate, putting some coffee in it, and you go, there you go. That's an innovative product. It's a different way of using an existing product.
You wouldn't want it to not work. Just coffee and chocolate or like.
But that's part of innovation. So
Yeah, right. You pay a price to develop the result.
Correct. So innovation itself, I mean, we can run a separate series on how to run innovation, but an important part of innovation is understanding that you're going to fail over and over and over and again. And I can pretty much guarantee you that in order for them to get to the right consistency with the cookie dough, with the coffee, with the chocolate, they had to play with different variations. And you saw how big and thick that cup was. There was obviously a reason for it.
Yeah.
So part of that innovation culture and pathway is that you've got to learn to fail. You've got to embrace that so you're continuously moving forward. But really underpinning that is the willingness to experiment as a business owner and look at your business and say, okay, aluminium, we've got 10% left over in terms of cut-offs. Okay, I can either discard it, I can set it to scrap metal, which is what most factories would do. But then the question is, okay, well, could you do something else with it? Could you make something else that you could have strong margins on?
Yeah.
And then sell it to a different market, different audience?
So there's two ways, I think, that we are compelled to innovate. It's either by choice, deliberately, or because we're desperate, because our back's against the wall.
Well, there's actually a third way as well.
Okay, what's that?
Accidental.
Yeah,
The
right.
accidental
yes.
innovator.
Yes,
Just
I'm sure that's happened.
accidentally,
Okay, there's three ways. Okay, but you have to, you're forced to do it, you want to,
Yep.
or it's an accident.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
But it doesn't matter, does it? Either way.
either
Just
way.
being conscious of the need to innovate is really sufficient.
Absolutely. Now, before we go continue on with this topic, how would you define innovation?
Adapting, no.
We all use,
Well, I guess
throw
I
around.
think it's thinking outside the box, I suppose. Have you got a definition?
Well, I've got a couple for myself. So one definition is taking the existing, whatever the existing is, and using it in new ways or coming up with new things with that existing. So in this case, taking cookie dough and using it in a slightly different way to turn the cookie into a cup, use it in a new way, the cup holds the coffee, which becomes a new product. So that could be one thing. But the other definition is really the radical way, which is introducing something radically different into the marketplace, something that challenges the industry. It might not be radical to another industry, but it's very radical to your particular industry. So, for example, let's say you're in, fabrication, custom steel cutting, and you might be using one of those water jet tools. Now imagine taking that tool and then using that in the cookie dough space, okay? And then you're cutting out shapes in cookie dough. Innovative way of using an existing tool somewhere else. It's not innovative in a bakery. I know I'm making stuff up, but that's what innovation is.
Well, it could take any form.
Different way, yeah. The thing with innovation that I've found though is that we've got to be really careful because innovation can be quite fun in itself. So we need to be careful as business owners that we don't turn to innovation as a way of solving the problems in our business. And so we've got to make sure that the problems in our business are being addressed. So whether it be people issues, cash flow issues, whatever it might be, before we really start embarking on this sort of experimentation and failure mentality. Because otherwise it's kind of like you're running ahead, but you haven't actually learned how to crawl and walk as a business. You haven't solidified your presence in the marketplace. And all of a sudden your customers are going to go, okay, well, who are you? What are you doing? Because you seem like you're a little bit confused and wishy-washy.
So what you're saying is, underlying all of this is you still got to get the basics right.
Absolutely. You can't just rely on innovation.
But, if you got the basics right, then the innovation is this sort of the cherry on top, the cream, and it can extract and take you in all sorts of extra
Well, it's cherry on top in the moment, and then in the longer term, the cherry actually becomes a part of the foundations, which means innovation allows you to maintain the competitiveness. it allows you to be at the forefront of the industry, always maintaining that leadership position.
So just on that, it really, I was thinking about road transport. You know, if you take a petrol tanker full of fuel to a service station and it comes back empty, it's such a waste.
Absolutely.
Right? Such a waste. So if you could think about how to make that truck produce some result on the way back, on the homeward journey.
That's innovation.
Yes.
That's it. And interesting that you mentioned that, because we're actually working with the client at the moment where they have developed an application for the transport industry. It's in the livestock transport industry. And not only is it going to innovate the way trucks move back and forth, so you might have a truck full of cattle going from one location to another. They drop the cattle off and then they go, okay, well, we've got to get back to the location, but we've got all this space. So
Capacity.
how do you fill that capacity and what do you do? So there's an innovative concept this young gentleman, Nick, has come up with. But inadvertently, and this is where the accidental innovation happens, we had a couple of meetings with government because we was looking at getting some grants. And someone said to us in one of the meetings, he's like, you do realize, guys, that what you've also got is a mechanism whereby you can actually impact the carbon footprint. And so you may be able to start tracking carbon amounts being used, offset, decreased, and use those numbers for companies to then leverage to their own benefit. So all of a sudden we've gone from a transport application to a carbon tool and a sort of environmental sustainability tool. And the government's now looking at it going, okay, well, we'll give you a grant for the environmental component, which then underpins the entire app. So innovation can come from anywhere, anytime. One of the things about innovation, one of the things that I love about it is that if we take that cookie cup example there before, is that you could actually charge really high margins on it, because often it doesn't exist out there. The innovation itself lends to a bit of funness, and people buy into the funness. They're willing to pay a bit more. And because you were going to throw out the cookie dough, your margin's really, really high. So I call that product a popcorn product. And I don't think, have I talked to you about a popcorn product?
No.
So if anyone goes to the cinemas, how does the cinema make money? Where do you think they make their money?
I guess it's in the candy bar.
Yeah. So there's low margin on the tickets itself. So what do? You go to the candy bar, you order some popcorn, and you get some drinks. Now, anyone that's gone to any movie recently and ordered some popcorn, you know that, one, it's over salty. And the reason it's over salty is because they want the patrons to then buy the drinks in order to combat the saltiness. So the two go hand in hand. But here's the other thing, right? If you get a big box of popcorns, now I'm a nerd, and a few years back I actually did this exercise. I weighed the big box of popcorn. I went to the shops and bought the kernels themselves.
Yep.
I popped it and worked out a bit of a ratio. And it works out that to make, say, an $8 box of popcorn, you only need about 20 cents worth of kernels. Because the kernels are little, they fit on your palm, but then you pop it and it fits in the entire box.
You put $2 worth of salt in there.
So I call that a popcorn product where your margin is so big.
Yes.
Not only is the margin big, but that product, because it's salty, then lends itself to sell another product in conjunction with it. So it's just, you've just all of scaled automatically because of the combination. So in that case, cookie dough with a bit of chocolate, and then you're upselling with the latte or the shorter coffee. So you're getting almost 3 products in the one, and one of them you're going to throw out.
Yeah.
That's really cool innovation.
I think I'm digressing, but something I like in innovation is, when you go to a cafe or restaurant, and sometimes it's got a QR code on the table.
Yes.
You can just order. I think that's great because it means that floor staff aren't required.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen the numbers. There's some businesses that don't want to put that infrastructure into their company, into their business, which seems crazy. But if you have it, you'll sell more drinks because people buy the drink and the food, and they'll just go, I'll just get another coffee, or I'll have another drink or beer or whatever. And boom, 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 it's easy to order.
But you know what's interesting about that? That's easy today. So we're how many years out of COVID now? 2 years, something like that.
Yep.
So when COVID hit and all the QR codes were coming out, it was actually quite the opposite. So first of all, a lot of people had to learn about, well, what is a QR code? Because a lot of people actually didn't know what a QR code was. Second of all, they then had to work out, okay, how do I scan? I didn't even realize you can scan a QR code and what to do with it.
And then it happened. You'd see 80-year-old people scanning everything. Yeah.
And then some people were having problems scanning it because it might have been laminated. There was too much light on it, then it wouldn't work. And so then people were complaining in hospitality. In fact, I remember going for a meal at Capera in one of the pubs there, and we couldn't scan the QR thing, even though the staff was like, no, you got to scan, you got to order that way. We're like, we can't scan it because there was too much light, and the way that they've stuck it up on the wall just wouldn't scan properly. It reflect it. So it caused problems for us at that time. And so that's actually called the innovator's dilemma, where you've got a piece of technology, you've got something that you're doing differently, and it's fantastic, but your customers haven't really accepted it. There's still a little bit of that. There's a bit of disconnect. It's so new. And so you've got a situation where those that have used technology prior to this, they get it. They scan it. Okay, this is cool. Love it. And then you got everyone else and the dragons, and they're sort of going, and the upswing takes a while for people to get a hold of it. But then you now have today's situation where it's what we do, and QR codes are just part and parcel of how we engage and interact.
Exactly. But the other thing is, and that, maybe an unexpected benefit is that now if you have that system, you can see what people are ordering at what time. You can see what is popular, certain demographics or whatever, and you can tailor if you want to take the time to take advantage of those numbers. Same with the hair salon, you can see when your quiet times are and who orders what at what time or whatever. You can manage your business better by using that.
100%. And in fact, so that's basically continuous innovation, where you've got the tech, customers are used to it. Okay, it's no longer innovative because people are used to it.
It's normal.
It's just normal.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, well, we're capturing all this data. Let's analyze the data and let's use the data to make some informed choices. And it might be, I don't know, let's take the hair salon. They noticed for some reason on Wednesday mornings, there's a certain trend. Okay.
Men are getting a haircut.
Yep. Let's take that and let's do something with that. And as a result, that then becomes your next innovation. And the thing with innovation is that, like we said right at the beginning, it's a spectrum. So it doesn't have to be earth-shattering. You don't need to be inventing an iPhone and things like that. It could just literally be take the cookie dough and make something else with it. It's just thinking differently.
So innovation and invention are two different things. Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb is different to innovation, where you just use what you've got and you figure out a better way or...
Correct. And that's why I don't call the iPhone an invention. Some call it an invention, but if we look at the original iPhone, it was just a fusion of the technologies that was out there put together in an innovative way, in a different way, and released to the marketplace. That's like extreme innovation right there.
So knowing that we were going to talk about innovation, I wanted to ask you a question without notice. What happens to businesses that don't innovate?
Number one, all you ever do is follow. It's very difficult to become a leader in an industry if you're not innovating, because it's innovation that sets you apart from the competitiveness in the marketplace. And there's very few businesses. I can't even think of any businesses out there that are top of their food chain that haven't innovated as part of what they're doing.
Or innovated to get to there.
Innovated to get to there. And the innovation might not necessarily be forward-facing, so your customer might never see it, but there's this innovation in the background. So I personally believe that, first of all, you become a follower, and as soon as you're a follower, chances are you're just going to be a floater, and as soon as you're a floater, chances are you'll start stagnating. And what happens when you're stagnating, not innovating? You're going to die. So eventually you will die. And in today's world, in fact, I spoke about this at a function the other day. In today's world, if your business is not leveraging emerging technologies today and starting to experiment with it, I can guarantee you in the next 6 years, it will be wiped out, worst case. Best case, you'll just be around, but all you're going to do is float. You're going to be stagnating.
So I think about fast food quite often. So McDonald's innovated with drive-throughs and breakfast and
menu
McCafe and the competitors basically followed them. The competitors haven't had the guts to try and step outside, have they really?
No, not really. Not really.
But Domino's, I suppose, have been pretty good at trying the
See, Domino's, I think I love that company because of the way they've embraced technology. And the reason I say that is because you could almost say the Domino's is a tech company. The Domino's application. So the ability to
pizza resell is the same as everyone else, really.
So what they've done is you've got that app and you can see, okay, it's being cooked, it's being done, it's this. it's engaging.
And they're
Your
talking
driver's
about
on the
drone
road.
delivery and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I remember they had the robots that was delivering it in the streets, and so that's true innovation. And I love Domino's business model itself, and the founder Don Meiji,
Yeah.
very, very, very clever man, and he's just done it so well. He's clearly allowed the leaders in the business to forward think, think 5 years ahead.
Yes.
And experiment and
So
be willing to
innovation in
fail.
that company is a center point. It's like
Yes.
a pillar for that company.
Absolutely.
So it gets me back to what happens if you don't innovate. You're a follower
Yep.
and you could be stagnating or dying.
100%.
So it is really a part of our survival to innovate.
It is. And look, if we go back to Domino's for a second, Domino's have not only innovated the tech side of things, but they've actually also innovated their food. So if you look at their menu and how frequently it changes, the other day I saw that they had, what was it, like a cheeseburger pizza? So
That's right.
they're coming in with these different
Got
angles.
a fried chicken pizza coming out, yeah. And they had dough balls and donuts and other things.
And it all seems gimmicky, but there's a purpose behind it. If you look at what they're doing, it's purposeful experimentation. They'll roll out the dough balls, for example.
Yeah.
They'll look at their sales, they'll look at what customers are saying, and then based on the data, they'll decide, okay, do we keep it on the menu or do we just say it's a limited edition?
Yeah.
It's like Oreos and Coca-Cola
Yes.
combining
Yes.
and coming up with the Oreos cookies. Now, I have my view on that. We bought some for the kids the other day, and we tried, of course. I'm a terrible fellow. We had to try it. I mean, but you see that and you go, okay, that is actually, yes, it's gimmicky. Some innovation is gimmicky, but at the same time, you need that in order to experiment, get the data for how the consumers are going to react and what they want. Because we can't assume what the marketplace wants. We have to ask
Yeah.
and put it out there.
So there's many businesses, I think real estate agent, they're pretty much the same. They list property for sale, they offer it on the market, they market it, try and get as many buyers as they can, and they sell it, negotiate the deal. So to be innovative in that space is difficult but if you are an innovator and you can innovate and you can be the leader, you're going to stand out. You're going to
100%.
get better results.
100%.
So it pays to innovate.
It does. And like, let's take the real estate business. I mean, the model is the model. I mean, ultimately, we have got legislation, we have governance, we have certain things that we must abide by. So there's certain structures that we can't bypass with innovation. What they can do, though, is you can use the back end, you can use technology, tools, ramp up communication, maybe change the way things are communicated, maybe change the way, okay, if I'm thinking today, Meta just released their new mixed reality glasses. We know Apple has gone down that path as well with their mixed reality glasses. I'd be thinking, all right, could I become the first real estate agency in Australia that offers mixed reality virtual tours through a property? They're the sort of things that you've got to think of, be clever with it, be different. Or could I be the first agency where my customers only need to tell me something once and that's it?
Yes.
All of a sudden, everything happens. So there's different ways of thinking about innovation. Customer facing, staff facing, supply facing, back end operations facing. So many different ways that we can tackle it.
Sometimes an idea can be ahead of its time. Sometimes you can come up with a great idea, concept, and bring it out, but you're just a little bit too early and the world's not ready for it. And someone else jumps on it later on and takes off. That's just bad luck.
Look,
right?
we had that happen with one of our tech businesses that I'm part of, and we launched something that we knew the industry needed. And that's the thing, is that you got to choose your words. Need versus want, very, very different things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes back to timing, and other times it's not that it's timing. The industry is ready, but they don't want something because it's a different paradigm. They've got to think differently about it, and they're just not willing to think differently about it.
So the thing is that things are changing all the time. And if we don't adapt and change, either just to keep up or get ahead, then we are going to get left behind.
That's it.
So we've got no choice. But I see a lot of business owners who, even though really have no choice, don't make the choice because they're comfortable. A lot of people in agriculture or other businesses, it's the way it's always been done. They're comfortable, they're making money. And sometimes it's a business where, like agriculture, where the frequency of transaction or the if you're in a restaurant or a cafe, you're dealing with people every day, you've got to find better ways every day. If you're cropping or something like that, the changes, it's less frequent. But the ability, if you're comfortable and you're making money and you don't think about innovating and changing, you will get left behind.
Comfort is death. So comfort leads to
Yes.
complacency. Complacency leads to stagnation. Stagnation leads to death. And that's the common pattern that I've seen time and time and again. So
I've written here, don't get comfortable.
no, you should never get comfortable. And for a business owner, what I'd say is, first of all, innovation cannot happen if you as the business owner don't develop an innovation mindset. If you're not thinking, okay, how do we innovate? If you're not questioning what is happening with your business on a continuous basis. So you need to develop that mindset. Then what you need to do is develop an innovation culture. So what that means is you need to allow your people to experiment. You need to allow your people to fail with the experimentations. You need to allow your people to then come back to you and make suggestions for improvements. And you've got to be willing to take that on board. It's not enough saying, Bruce, go away and experiment and come back to me when you got a better way. Then you come back to me and I'm like, Bruce, why would I do that? I've been doing it that way for 15 years. It works perfectly fine. Go and do something else. Go and find something else. Don't waste my time. So, and I have seen that in business as well. The owner's like, come to me. And then someone gives the feedback. I'm like, nah, we're not going to do it. So what's the point? So innovation is a team effort within a business. So you need the business owner driving it. And then you've got to enable your team, allow your team to go and experiment.
Yeah.
So,
but it's a comfort thing.
It is
back
comfort.
to that. Just back to that. Comfort is death. Don't get comfortable. A lot of people do. But if you're comfortable and the market's leaving you behind or something's changed, you will be forced to innovate anyway. Or die.
Yes. And the reason I pause there is because what I've seen quite a few times is that the market is changing. We're seeing all these indicators that, okay, your business needs to change, but the business owner is just so fearful of what that change will mean for them personally, not necessarily for business, but personally, that they refuse to change because they think, if I rock the boat here, then how am I going to pay the mortgage over there? If I rock the boat here, what am I going to do if my income drops? And those fears.
It's natural human instinct to resist change. It's natural to be nervous about change, but you don't have to get rid of all the things that you've been doing. You can just add that other layer on top.
Well, this goes back to what we were saying earlier, the spectrum. Don't ever forget the spectrum. So if we think about it from a micro change, micro innovation through to major innovation, you don't need to save the world. You don't need to be inventing a new iPhone, right? All we're saying is do micro changes within your business on a regular basis, change things at a micro level continuously. And what will happen is over a period of time, that continuous change builds up to big impact. So you don't need to fear change. If you've got
Change is good.
change is good.
Embrace change.
Absolutely. But don't think of change as something that has to transform everything overnight. It doesn't have to be that way if that's not how you want to be.
So speaking of change, I just had this ready. Charles Darwin said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." And I think Winston Churchill said something similar. So if we don't respond to change, we won't survive. If we respond to change, that's the determinant of the strongest of the species.
Absolutely. But that's not enough in itself. So I'm just mindful of time. We're going to wrap it up in a second. But so you've got to evolve with change. But then what you've also got to do is when you evolve with change, monitor what happens as a result of change, and then either continue on the path because the change is worthwhile and you've hit it out of the park, or continue changing until it's giving you the outcomes that you're expecting. So change is continuous. Change is never static. And like you said before, don't fear change. It's part and parcel.
Embrace it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the usual question, Bruce, what's the biggest takeaway for today?
Okay. Apart from me now thinking about, I wonder where I can get one of those cookie dough lattes from. I definitely want to. It is in Australia, right?
I think it's US, but we'll have
No, she had an Aussie accent.
Yeah, okay, we'll have to check it out. We'll come back to everyone on that.
No, if I put a note in the footer. But my takeaway is that you're either going to be forced to innovate or you can do it deliberately. So you might as well do it deliberately. Because if you don't do it, you're going to stagnate, you're going to die. And that's a fact. We're all going to die anyway.
Yep.
So
might as well impact it.
yes, that's right. Let's last as long as we can. And in business, you know, every business has a life cycle. So when you extend that and make your business strong and powerful and be a leader, then you have to look at ways to innovate. There's not one way. There's many ways.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, mine's simple. Innovation's a spectrum, so don't be fearful of the word innovation. Think of it as a spectrum. It can be from the micro through to the ground-shaking, you know, earth-shattering Apple iPhone release.
Yeah.
Choose what works for you, what works for your business. But regardless of what you choose, just innovate. Just move forward continuously and embrace change.
That's an important tool.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I'm going to go and innovate now.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.